Suhel, would you prefer to be at the podium, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen, and the panelists on the panel, and all you people driven with stamina and optimism. This summit could have been in 2001, it could have been in 2007, it's 2021, nothing changes. Nothing. We've had successive inept governments from which you have a great amount of hope. You make the same mistake of calling the same jokers to every summit, whether it's the tourism minister, the tourism secretary, they're not interested. The government is not interested in you guys because it's a socialist government. They don't talk to farmers. Why on earth would they talk to suited, booted, five-star hotel managers? So what I fail to understand is you are bright people, and yet you make the same goddamn mistake. It's almost like you're following the Rahul Gandhi style of management. Lose, 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 and hope to win through some idiocy. But I've never understood. This government is not going to, why this? No one is going to help you because Nehru in 1951 believed that we should be a socialist modeled country. None of these jokers have had the courage to actually implement large-scale reform. And what Pathu Keswani talked about in terms of the independence of this sector, its contribution to GDP has not been marketed by this sector. The industry is its worst own enemy. You know, by reducing rates for bureaucrats' children to get married at your pricey little hotels, or sending them hampers of cheese and having editors write in their Sunday columns about what a great hotel manager or GM or owner the chap is, doesn't get you any laurels. Because Modi doesn't read Sangvi, and I'm not referring to Veer. That's the tragedy of your times. So here's the problem, and I want to address the strategic problem. You are chasing the wrong end of the strategy. I was very impressed, and I'm not saying this in any condescending manner, but I love the points Shobha Mohan, right? Shobha Mohan made. I just entered the hall at that time. When she talked about minimalism in luxury. We have to have minimalism of purpose in this industry, which is sadly lacking. Rohit Khattar is sitting here. You talk about innovation. We talk about a civilizational history. Pathu referred to Aurangabad. We are not a country. We are a civilizational history. And yet, nothing of our civilizational history falls into our product realm. We believe luxury is by having this tall Jat who dresses up as a Sardar and behaves like Pierce Brosnan opening your door, and we say, wow, that's luxury. Many years ago, I wrote an article saying, will someone kill my butler? And Vicky Oberoi had it circulated. I think, Sanjay, you were there. You know, intrusiveness is not luxury. Luxury essentially is a whisper. There are many people in Delhi who don't know Savile Row but would like a Savile Row suit. The problem is when they get that suit, the label is not outside, it's inside, which worries them. Because when they give it to their spouse to hang, the spouse can't figure out why you spent 6,000 pounds. Which brings me to the first point. Redefine luxury as a whispering concept and not a screaming concept. If a Rohit Khattar is a restaurateur, as he is accomplished at that, have we created or have we used this time to create the world's first civilizationally inspired immunity menu? I'm not saying stuff every goddamn dish with turmeric. Look at grandmother's Kara. It is amongst the highest selling tubular items on Amazon. But we don't do that because we are perhaps, or maybe we do, but perhaps we are accustomed to a particular genre. We talk about drivability. Deep talked about a 9-hour drive between Delhi and Kasauli. Each dhaba sells you the same thing. There's no experiential tourism in our country except for a few isolated spots. and tomorrow's consumer will be driven by fear. So let me give you good news one. COVID is not going away until 2024. All pandemics, if you actually study the history of pandemics, last for anywhere between not even one, they last anywhere between 5 to 7 years. Our brilliant government will not even vaccinate people in a hurry. They will do it at every election point. So you're not going to have people who are absolutely fearless. How do you marry luxury with this constant fear that will remain in people? And look at what's happening in this luxury space. Earlier, you used to brag. Now you want to be isolated. Earlier, you wanted to be seen in luxury properties. Today, you want a reclusive facade over your head so that people don't know what you're up to. I mean, in a nice way. So where do we go from here as an industry? Where do you go from here as an industry? Number one, the consumer will continue to be driven by fear. The consumer will seek familiarity. The consumer will seek experiences. And most importantly, the consumer will seek reassurance. Loyalty will be fungible, but up to a point. I will seek the familiar when I'm fearful. It's like the little child that will always rush into a mother's arms, not to a stranger's, when that child is surrounded or consumed by fear. So how do we recalibrate, reset, rejuvenate our product mix to marry the concept of luxury with the management of fear? Because one of the things that all hotel companies or all brands have to do is managing fear. I want to know that what I'm getting at home is not just hygienic, is not just sanitized, is not just brown paper packaging, but actually is sanitized in the real sense. So how do we manage that entire chain? The second point is, Kapil talked about it. I mean, I wasn't there when he made that point, but someone on the panel alluded to it, talked about drivability. In a conversation in June, which was helmed by Puneet Chhatwal and had the management, the leadership team of the Taj, at that time I had said that people will want to be isolated and cocooned. We are going back into a shell. People will want the comfort of driving without the comfort of strangers. But the best form would be if they can drive on their own, which they may be unwilling to, but where you can do the 4 Ds. You dream, you drive, you discover, and then you're delighted. But that's how things are going to change. And my worry here is, and Patu has hotels there, I mean, most of you have hotels here, see how successive governments have destroyed Goa. I don't care about what they've done with the environment. I'm more worried about what they've done with the tourism potential. Today, there are more tourists in Goa than there's fish in the goddamn sea that is adjunct to Goa. That's the tragedy. Work from home has actually been not a boon, but a curse for Goan tourism. And I'm not here to say that, you must price it at a certain level. But the one thing is, we are very poor marketers in this country of our real potential. Whether it is monuments, whether it is public-private partnership. I mean, these jokers will not allow you to have a cocktail party in Hanuman's tomb, but there will be wine, right? I'm saying Hanuman's tomb, sorry. This is how right-wing we've become now. Sorry, I better not say Hanuman's tomb again, otherwise I'll be like crucified. Again, no pun intended. At Humayun's tomb, you're not allowed to serve alcohol. But you vilify the Mughals. I mean, therein lies the irony. People celebrate monuments. The British Library. I mean, it's unbelievable how petty-minded and close-minded we are when it comes to celebrating our civilizational history. It's almost as if we want no one to know who we were. And that's why I'm saying, forget the government. These guys are going to do nothing. I mean, they might put Naveen Berry on the Tirupati board now that Kachru is on the Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine board, but that's about it. I mean, he, poor chap, also has to struggle to go through the cave. So the reality is the following. Number one, This industry must tell people who matter, not the government. And the people who matter are the people who are paying the bills. That's the consumer. That today we are redefining and resetting Indian luxury. And Indian luxury is not about the guy who's swatting pigeons away from your tables at palace hotels. It's not about the guy who's giving you a Mangal Snan. But it's more about unobtrusive luxury. We need to capture spaces. You know, Shobha talked about the forests in central India. She talked about Ladakh. We need to celebrate our diversity, which we don't. Your city hotels will continue to be under pressure. Pathu alluded to MICE. He alluded to business meetings. City hotels will continue to be under pressure. And let me tell you, the Indian wedding is subservient to the Indian funeral. People will not be in a hurry to attend weddings because they value their lives. So don't think that tomorrow there'll be band baja barat, because they know at the end of it, there'll also be a crematorium. So factor that in. Factor how people are going to behave. Factor what people's fear psychosis is going to be. You think after the second shot, most of which people that you and I know have taken illegally, do you think these people are still going to roam around? No. We are creating a hierarchy even in vaccination. That's how tragic things are. So where you're creating a hierarchy in vaccination, can the hotel industry be the greatest leveler? A leveler where you use luxury, experience, and touch points to change the difference. And finally, Deep talked about digital. I have all the admiration for what Deep and his colleagues in the IT sector have done, but I'm a great consumer believer. The consumer doesn't care what is digital, what is offline, what is non-digital. The consumer only cares about two things: ease of business and cost. If we can manage these two, as people in the IT industry have done magnificently, we are on a roll. And I will leave you with one thought. Compare the apps of Indian hotel chains with that of hotel chains like the Four Seasons. It's a goddamn nightmare. I don't know how many of you have used the Vistara app. Nightmare. So when we talk of experience, let's get our basic hygiene right. And this is a great time to get it right, because the domestic tourist is not as fastidious as his counterpart in other markets. But this is not the time to cut rates. Pathu talked about cutting costs, which is fair and only sensible. This is not a time to undercut, because people remember the prices they paid. They may forget the experience. They will always tell you, भाई 20 साल पहले तो मैंने 10,000 रुपए दिए थे, आज 12,000 कैसे है? For them, inflation is a non sequitur when it comes to a lesser amount that they may have paid. I will just end by saying, you represent India's civilizational history. You will do yourself little service if you say that you represent India's hospitality industry. The jokers keep talking about Atati Dev Bhave and this and that. They don't mean it. So the more you rely on these people, the more they will hoodwink you. You have to be, in more ways than one, Atmanirbhar. The tragedy is you're always nirbhar on the wrong guy. Thank you.
Thank you, Suhel. Thank you very much. I'm